And he looked around like, what is happening? And right then Kenadie climbed up and she goes, there you are. And he looks at her and he says, you left me. And she said, no, Dad, you left me. And he understood in that moment exactly what she meant.
Before we dive in, just a quick favor. If you're enjoying what we're doing at Angels Among Us, please take a second to rate and review the show. And if something in today's episode touches your heart, please share it with a friend. Welcome to Angels Among Us, the podcast where we share real stories of angelic encounters. Each episode you'll hear firsthand accounts of divine protection, guidance, and miraculous interventions that remind us we're never truly alone. Whether through a whisper of comfort, an unseen hand of protection, or an unmistakable presence, angels are closer than we think. Join us as we explore these powerful experiences of angels, both seen and unseen. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Angels Among Us. Brent and Michaela here, alongside with Rachel Stewart. We are really excited. I know more about Rachel's story than Michaela does. She just got here and sat down kind of late. But
I've heard I need my tissues. So.
You will need your tissue. But yeah, again, I found Rachel on Instagram. She's doing some really awesome things that you all will hear about, and we hope that you'll be able to reach out to her and give her a follow. And we're excited. We're excited to hear her story. You all should be very excited to listen, to watch, however you're joining us. So I will turn it over to you, Rachel. Let you give everybody a little introduction, and just go ahead and tell everybody what you have to tell.
All right. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
I'm Rachel Stewart. My husband and I, his name's Shane, we run something on Instagram called 411. Actually, the Instagram page is 411_together because I think 411 was taken. But the movement, what we're trying to do, the name that came to us is 411, FOR and the number 11. And it's all in honor of our daughter, Kenadie, who's across the veil. She was 10 years old when she passed away from brain cancer. And we just went on a pretty deep spiritual dive trying to heal our broken hearts, trying to feel more connected to her. We couldn't accept that she was just gone. It was, it's devastating to think that our loved ones no longer exist. But for me, with that being my daughter, it was unacceptable. So I did everything that I could to find her, and I feel like I did. And she now is part of my team, my spirit team, my guiding light. And she told us to start something, and the name 411 came to our hearts, and we launched it. And now we're helping other people see that they can be connected with their loved ones across the veil, or with God, or angels, or, whoever they want to feel is a part of their spirit team. That's what I call it. And these stories that people are sending to us that we're sharing just help prove that connection still exists and that we all are connected. And for me, this is only the way that I want to live my life. And I wish that I could have found these stories in the early days when I didn't know what I really believed in. And so we're just following the nudges and, doing what she says to do. And it's got us to where we're at now. We're on YouTube and TikTok, this is all tough for me. I'm like, I didn't know how to do any of this. And this is all way beyond anything that I knew how to do. And so I work with a gal who's in her 20s. She helps me with all of it. But we're doing that. And now we're getting ready to launch a community so that we can help people feel that connection if they want to. We're just going to show, people everything that we did that helped us, because we feel like we've welcomed in more peace and love and joy and all of these things back into our lives after losing Kenadie. And we didn't know if that would even exist for the rest of our days. And so when we're sharing these stories, people are reaching out saying, how did you do it? I just don't know how to get to where you're at. And so we're just following the nudges. We feel nudged to help out people however we can, whatever that looks like. And we're just totally open to whatever path, whatever is on our path.
Yeah, I feel like life is so much about navigating and trying to learn and understand. Lots of the things that we go through, we've never been through them before, right? And it's so nice to have people that have been through what we're going through to kind of help us process.
Yeah.
And so for you, it sounds like in your processing and in your learning and navigating, you're also helping so many other people through that and maybe doing things that you wish you had you
exactly
before. And
that's what I was, sorry to interrupt, but that's what I was told. You know, I tune in, I meditate, I try to connect with my daughter as much as I can and with, you know, angels and other people across the veil. And I ask them for their guidance all the time. And when 411 was like growing in my heart and I knew that we were going to do something, I just couldn't see what it was. It was frustrating. It was like, take another step. I'm like, towards what? What are we supposed to do? I don't get it. And so this one time I was meditating and I was pleading. I'm like, please let me just see something. Let me understand what we're supposed to do with this, because the little breadcrumbs were like, if you do this, you're going to be able to help a lot of people. They showed me, my husband and I, we were walking on a path and all of a sudden there were like thousands or millions. I mean, just tons of people walking with us. And so I had that feeling of, oh, we're not going to be walking alone any longer. We're going to be with lots of other people and we're all going to be able to help each other out. And I was like, that's cool. I accept that. Like, bring that into my life, because we felt like we were really alone. And then in this meditation, I was begging them to show me something else. And it was like I heard it clear as a bell. And it was, you are going to create the thing you wished you could have found. Like, yes, and I still didn't know what it was, but I'm like, I get it. So that was a gift for sure. And they're like, just keep going. You got it.
Yep. We can relate to that. I remember early on, I was feeling super overwhelmed with everything, feeling like this was something that we're supposed to be doing, but technology, not my thing.
It's
right?
so hard.
And, I just heard and felt, just start.
Yes.
And,
it'll get better.
Right. And yep, you just learn. And, as a parent, it's really important for my kids to learn things on their own, right? And to try and to fail. And I feel like that's how we learn best, even as adults, right?
Yeah.
For
God sure.
needs us to just try things and learn, and he'll be there with us every step of the way. But we're meant to fail and to try to navigate through hard things.
Yeah, the fear of failure is like the biggest block for sure.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like, people are put into our lives for different reasons, the angels, and sometimes it's just to remind us of that. Like Kenadie, when she lived here, she was really brave. She was really good at being brave. She was like the shyest, quietest kiddo, but then she'd get up on stage and sing a solo. And it would be like, oh, what was that? I mean, and she'd do it beautifully and she'd love it. And now my younger daughter, Mila, who's now 13, she's shy and quiet and reserved in public, but she plays softball and she goes out there and she hits the ball in front of softball is everybody's focusing on you sort of sport. And when she told me she wanted to start playing last year, it was like, I just didn't, but I'm like, you got it. And then she goes out there and she starts doing it. And then she goes, I think I want to pitch. And now she's pitching, which means everybody's really just watching you while you're pitching. It's like the weight of the world is on your shoulders when you're out there in the circle. And she's so brave. And she just keeps going out there, and it doesn't matter what happens. If she fails, if the team loses, if it doesn't go right, she just goes out there again the next day. And I'm just like, you are such an inspiration to me. And I just love that we can all learn these things from each other. But I would like to think that, I don't know if she sees it right now, but maybe when she's older, she's going to look back and be like, I was learning from my mom and dad at the same time, because they launched this thing. They had no idea what they were doing. I know they were scared about it because she hears us talking about it all the time. And so I'm just choosing to believe that we're all learning these lessons from each other and growing together. And that's, I hope, why we're all meant to be a family. I believe that we chose each other, and I would like to think that it's for moments like that.
No, it's
Absolutely.
a beautiful thing when I've looked at our daughter and she's 5, and I'm like, gosh, I'm learning so much from you. You are
Yes.
teaching me how to be this type of way. And isn't that such a beautiful thing?
Yes.
That we can learn from these children.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
On both sides of the veil.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. For sure. And I'm happy to know that now. I didn't know that when Kenadie first passed, and that was a really, really hard place to be. And partially because I didn't grow up with a lot of faith. We didn't go to church. We, neither my husband or I, have no religious background. I went to church a couple times with my grandma. And to be honest, I was really excited for the cookies afterwards. So, I was pretty young, and I was bored, I would say, during the actual sermon. And I was little, and there were other kids, and we would play together afterwards and eat the cookies. That's the part that I looked forward to. And so I had no background with that. All through my life, when I thought about death, I was afraid of it. And I was just hopeful that what I was afraid of is that never seeing my family again, and that scared me. And so I would always just hope that there was something more. So to lose my daughter and still have that kind of not just underlying, have that huge fear in my heart was a terrible place to be. And so partially what I would like to think we're doing with 411 is helping people who feel that fear get past it a little quicker. Because that was what I wanted. I wanted proof. I was a huge skeptic. Someone could tell me all day long that they just know in their heart that there's more, but I needed proof. So that's what I feel like these stories of connection that we share can put out into the world, is the proof that some of us need to have to accept what I now know to be the truth, is that there is a heaven, and that it's right here, and that our loved ones are right here. And I am just so thankful every single day that I get to know that now, and life is better now that I do.
Awesome. So I love, you said you needed proof, right? Mm-hmm. For you, your proof, that's proof for you, but you can tell all these stories up and down, and that's still not enough for somebody, right? Sure. So I would love for you to share with everybody how you got there, like how, you can share as much about Kenadie's story as you want, as you feel comfortable with, but maybe kind of just share how everything happened, or, what you were feeling at the time and how you got to really find your proof. Because I think that's so true. We all need that proof, quote unquote, to really get to the next step. So if you can just share with everybody how you navigated all of that and how you got to where you are.
Sure. So after Kenadie passed, so before she passed, a friend of mine that I worked with, her sister, or her friend needed help financially. And so she put something online where we could all bid, like an auction. She had an aunt that was a evidential medium, which I had never done anything like that before. I would say I was open to it, but didn't really care about it. And so I thought, well, that might be interesting. And I bid on it, like very, very low bid, thinking that I won't win that. And nobody else bid on it. So I did win it. And we did the reading. I felt like she brought through, she was an evidential, she's since passed, but she was an evidential medium. So she brought through messages, but then she would bring through proof that helped me feel that connection with, she believed she was connecting with the other side, with source, with God, with angels, with loved ones across the veil. And I thought, okay, but then there was proof, and it was all beautiful, and it was just a beautiful message. And I thought there was nothing wrong with doing that. And it felt good to me, but I didn't care that much about it at the time. After Kenadie passed, it was like, oh, I'm so glad that I had met her before, because I needed some sort of concrete proof. And I thought maybe she could give it to me. And I know that some people are very against mediums, but because I had met her and I wasn't afraid of anything that she had said, she was just such a lovely person. And I was just not afraid of any of it. So I was afraid of never finding out if Kenadie still existed. That's what I was afraid of. Mm-hmm. So we reached out to her. And the night before the reading, my husband came to our house. We were building the house that I'm in right now when Kenadie passed, which was devastating for, on top of everything else, that she wasn't going to get to move into the house that she dreamt about, with us. And he was the one that was building a lot of it, doing a lot on the house. So after she passed, he had to come back here, by himself and be working on it. It was devastating. And so he'd found the courage to come back to the house. He was working on it, and he didn't come home until after midnight. It really freaked me out, because the last time I'd been to the house, we didn't have power. And so he would only work during the daylight hours. But I wasn't wanting to pester him, because it'd been so hard for him to come here. When he came home, he said, "Oh, I'm so sorry that I didn't text you. I felt her there." And he reminded me that we have power. So he was on the back deck working underneath these canned lights. And he was like, she was there right beside me. And he goes, "It was hard for me to leave because I'm afraid I won't feel that again next time I go." So he just soaked her up as much as he could when he was there. So then the reading was happening. He wanted to be in a different part of the house, and I would just fill him in afterwards. And this woman lived states away. I'm in Washington. She's in Arizona. There were no photographs of our home online, like social media, but she knew that we were building a house. And so she starts this reading, and she says, "Okay, I'm at your guys' home site," which she knew about. I said, "Okay." And she goes, "Let's see, Shane's there. I'm with him." Like, Kenadie's showing me that she was with him. We're on a back deck underneath canned lights. And she goes, "I'm looking out and it's pitch black." She goes, "It feels like it's after midnight." And I was like, yes. And I'm just trying, I'm not giving her anything, but I'm like, yeah. And she goes, "Okay, now I'm standing in front of a fireplace, and it's all stone around the fireplace." And she goes, "Kenadie says she loves how it turned out." And what she didn't know is that we did everything with the girls, Kenadie and her younger sister, Mila. We let them help us pick out flooring and colors, paint colors and everything. She had helped me pick out that stone for the fireplace. It was the last thing that she did for the house before her diagnosis. And she died just a few weeks later. So we're standing in front of this fireplace, and the medium says, that it was beautiful. Kenadie loves how it turned out. And she didn't know that Kenadie had never gotten to see that placed. And it just meant so much to me. And I knew that was a message from Kenadie. It was like the skepticism in my heart was starting to dissolve. But I was really eager to hear the next thing that was going to come out of her mouth, because it just felt like so much proof. And then she says, "Now Kenadie's taking me into your new garage." She's like, "Oh, it feels really special in there. What's special about your new garage?" And I was like, it is just a garage. I'm like, oh, that's such a bummer because it was just building and then it was kind of this, I was like, I don't know. It's just a garage. I was like racking my brain and there was nothing that I could come up with. And she said, huh. She goes, okay. And then she goes, well, now she's showing me a hummingbird feeder. I said, yeah, okay. There's nothing about that. And she said, maybe she wants you to put hummingbird feeders around the house. I said, okay. So then we moved on to different topics for the hour. And she brought through lots of evidence, beautiful messages. It was a really beautiful reading, but she kept saying that Kenadie was taking her back into the garage. She was like, I'm missing something. She said, it's so obvious. There's something going on with the garage and then a hummingbird feeder. I said, oh, sorry, I can't help you. So, but I'd written all these notes down and then we get done with the reading. Shane's like so eager to hear what she had to say. So I'm reading the notes line by line and I told him about the back deck and I told him about the fireplace and, we're both I could feel his energy. That was really important to him. And then I said, and then Kenadie kept taking her into the garage and his eyes lit up and he goes, I forgot to tell you. He goes, when I was there yesterday, he goes, went to the garage to get a tool and I heard something and I turned around and there was a hummingbird in the garage. And he said it was right in front of my face. And he said that he was looking at the hummingbird and the hummingbird was looking at him. And he said it stayed there long enough that he just looked at it and said, hi, honey. And then, then it flew out and I lost it just like you did.
Oh my gosh.
And I looked down at my paper and the next line said hummingbird feeder. And I told him and it was like, that was the moment that I knew that she still existed and that heaven was real, but it wasn't a million miles away. It was right here. She was still right here with us. And it was that was the moment. And it was like right then, this fire started burning inside me. It was just like, if she's there, because the medium explained to me that she's just across this veil and we're not meant to see across it. It's just, our human eyes don't let us see it. But if she really is right there, like there had to be a way for me to find her. So that was the start of it all. And so when people say that, people have their beliefs and I am not here to change anyone's beliefs because my goodness, I'm so glad that I have mine and nobody can change mine and they're not supposed to change mine because we all come here to have our own stories or in our own paths and we're supposed to feel connected in our own way or not feel connected. Some people maybe aren't, I don't know, but this was my path and nobody can tell me otherwise, but that medium was a gift from my daughter and from God. And they gave me that breadcrumb before Kenadie passed because I was meant to know that she still existed and my stubbornness needed that proof. And that woman gave it to me and she was an angel on earth for sure.
I cannot even imagine that. That'd be a mess.
Well, yeah. I feel like we all need those light bulb moments in our life, right? That because you're not the only person that is stubborn. We all get so locked into the way that we think things are. And I've said on previous episodes, there's a line that I use from time to time. It's eyes to see and ears to hear. So obviously when we have working eyes, we can see, right? But we see just what's in front of us and our ears hear. And we get so programmed into just seeing and hearing what is in front of us. But when we have eyes to see and ears to hear, to me that means eyes to see the things that God wants me to see, or that Kenadie wants me to see, or
Absolutely.
that, right, things that we're not so programmed and so set in our ways to see. There's so much around us that we cannot comprehend, things that we don't understand, and you probably don't completely understand still, right, how you've seen and heard the things, and you're able to communicate with Kenadie, but you couldn't explain that to somebody, right?
Right. Getting past the human filters is the trick. It's like we come here to have a human experience, and they give us that. That is a gift because I believe we want the ups and downs of the human experience. And so, they put, our soul is in this human body that can only see what it sees and hear what it hears. But once she was across the veil, then she taught me, it's like, I feel like one foot is here planted on earth, having an earthly experience, loving every moment of it. Not every moment, loving as much as I can while I'm here, and really appreciating my family that's here, and the lessons and the love and the joy and all the things and the pain, everything that I get to feel here, I'm feeling here because I believe I chose to feel it here. But then I've got a foot that is also on the other side. And I think what I have come to believe is that anyone that wants to live that way with a foot on the other side is allowed to. That's my belief. And not everybody feels that, has that pull to the other side. But once I did, it was like, oh, if I could just go back, because this is where the magic is. This is where the beyond love and joy and peace, what I feel now after going through what I went through, it just seems like when I sit back and think about it, I'm like, that feels impossible that I'm feeling this way, that my life is this good. But it's because of the way that I'm living my life now that it is this good, because it's not me. I'm not doing it all myself. I'm allowing the help that the team across the veil wants to give me. They're happy to help guide me and to let me feel all the good stuff, but I had to open my heart up to it. And that, for me, that was the trick. And now I'm like, oh, I'm not going back to the other way. Like, this is better. Like, I recommend this highly. So yeah, that's how I live.
I love it. And you said a couple of things that I want to touch on really quick also. Well, before we were interrupted, for those of you that's going to be cut out, but we were interrupted by my daughter, but we were having a little conversation in there, and you spoke a little bit about your son. Mm-hmm. If we can just rewind, and if you can talk a little bit about that, because there's something else that you mentioned that I'll touch on after you kind of tell this story, but I would love for everybody to be able to hear about how your son came to be, and just kind of a little bit about what we were talking about before, and then I'll go back to my thoughts.
Sure. So I have a little boy named Salem. He's 2.5 years old. And actually so Kenadie, the daughter that passed away, she got cancer when she was 2 initially. She had brain cancer. She was treated and she got over it, we thought, and everything was good for 8 years. And then she had a new type of brain cancer form. And it was kind of unheard of for that type to be a secondary tumor. Really baffled the specialists all over the nation. And they've never seen that. They told us they'd never seen that before, because the kind that came the second time was the most deadly form of brain cancer that exists for kids. And we knew from the moment that they found out she had it that we would lose her unless a miracle came. And we did. We lost her. The headache showed up on Christmas Eve. It was diagnosed a few days later on the 29th of December, and she passed away on the 26th of January. So it was that quick that all of that happened. But right before her diagnosis, my husband and I, maybe a few months before, we thought we were done having kids. We had our 2 daughters. They were 5 years apart, so they were 10 and 5, and life was just really blissful, really good. But there was something in my heart. I felt like we were meant to have 3 kids. My husband wasn't quite so sure, so we were going back and forth for those 5 years. And finally he was like, I think you're right. So we decided to try for a third, and it wasn't happening. And then Kenadie, just kind of out of the blue, right before her diagnosis, she said, I want you guys to have a little boy. She had, when she was 4, she came up to me and she said, I'd like for you guys to have a little girl. I want a little sister. And I said, oh, we've actually been like, we'll try to make that happen for you, honey, but it's not really how it works, but we'll try. And sure enough, she got her little sister, and then she never said anything again. They were just best friends and just had the greatest relationship that you could ever ask for with your kids. And it was really fun to watch them. But she never asked for more siblings. And then she said, she wanted another one. She wanted it to be a boy. I reminded her again, that's not how it works, but that, maybe we'd try for a third kiddo. After her diagnosis, she was really adamant. She was talking about him a lot. And then, as it progressed, after a couple of weeks, she wasn't able to talk, at the end. But that would be something that I would ask her, do you want me to talk to you about? There were different things that were fun for her to listen to. And that was one of the things. I talked to her so much about her little brother and what it was going to be like when he came here and how much fun they would have together and things like that, just to keep her happy, Sorry.
No.
We just pretended. We knew what she needed. And she needed to believe that she was going to get her miracle. So we just talked to her like she was going to be around. So that was one of the fun things that we would talk about is, when this little boy was going to be here pestering her because they'd be so, there'd be such an age span between them. And, but it would make her smile thinking about it. And that was a lot of fun. But, after she passed, we went back and forth on whether or not we wanted to have another child, but we decided to move forward and, continue trying, but we weren't able to. And I really feel like, my body was just broken and I just couldn't welcome in a child at that time. But I still felt something calling my name, but I hadn't learned how to connect at that time. I was just starting to meditate. I was doing things like that, but I just wasn't feeling super connected. Over the years, I became more and more connected, and then he showed up in a meditation, and he was behind this door, and he popped his head out, and I was like, who are you? It was just this like sweetest energy of this little boy, and I was like, oh, you're my little boy. But I knew that he was over there playing with Kenadie and having just the best time, and I could feel that energy. And then people we would reach out talk to mediums every once in a while, and they always said, Kenadie's showing up with a little boy. She's holding his hand. She says it's her little brother. And I would say, I know that little boy. I have met him before. And then my husband, Shane, he wanted to have dreams with Kenadie so badly because I had dreams sometimes, and he just never remembers his dreams. He wasn't having any dreams at all. And then she showed up. And she had this little boy, and he was a toddler, and he was crawling all over her like they do. And she was looking over at Shane with a smile on her face like, I love him, but he's so annoying. And it was just like the best because it was just so realistic of how a toddler would be with like a big sister like that. And so he woke up and he was like, I got to meet him too. And it was just this. But it went on for years. I mean, he didn't come. Let's see, she passed away in 2018, January, and he was born in November of 2022. So it took a while for him to find his way to us. But I had been going to specialists, trying to figure out some health issues that I had going on. And they said, do you want to have another child? Because it would be impossible without help because my body just wasn't acting properly. And I said, well, I thought we did, but maybe it's just not meant to be. I just let it go. And a month later, I was getting into the shower and I heard, because I'm very connected with Kenadie now, and I hear her talking to me in my mind. It's just in my mind. It's just like my thoughts drop in, but I know that they're her words. And she said, "Mommy, take a test." And I knew what she was talking about. I was like, there's just no way, right? But I knew it because a month earlier I was meditating, and right before I fell asleep, I felt him in my stomach, and I felt like I was 9 months pregnant. He was communicating with me through the kicks. I'm like, "Are you coming to us?" And he kicked he's coming. I'm like, "Are you a little boy?" And he kicked again. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe what I was experiencing. It was so beautiful. And I didn't tell Shane about it till the next morning. And I said, I think we really are going to have this little boy. He says he's coming. So the next month she says, "Mommy, take a test." I took the test. It was pregnant. The 2 lines popped up. Shane was gone, which was by design, because there's no way that he wouldn't have heard me like screaming in the bathroom. But I heard Kenadie say, "Wait to tell Daddy until tomorrow." And the next day was her birthday. And she said, "I want to give him a present." She was really big on giving gifts. And so she wanted to give him a gift on her birthday. And then, so I told him, and then she told me, wait until Mila's birthday to give her the gift. And her birthday was 4 days later. So then we told her about her little brother, or about the baby that was coming 4 days later. And of course, it was a little boy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry. Yes, thank you for sharing that. And part of what we were talking about before too is, I don't remember if this was on the air or not, but we were talking about walls and how in religion, or how just human nature it is to put walls up and to get so caught into this is how it is and this is how it's meant to be. But in doing that, we can put God in a box, right? And part of that is we have the scriptures and we can learn from the scriptures. But in my experience and in your experience, we learn so many truths that aren't in the scriptures, that we don't get from reading the words on a page. Sure. Or I get them a lot when I am studying and reading scriptures. These thoughts or feelings come into my mind that's not in the book, right? It's that communication, it's that connection with my Father in heaven, with God communicating with me, or maybe it's communication with other loved ones, right? Kenadie and your son before coming here, right? So to me, this is something that I've always known, is there is something before this life, right? Mm-hmm. There is something after this life. For you mentioned earlier about deciding to come here, making decisions before coming here, right? And for you know that to be true. You can't say that and have somebody else that just automatically becomes a truth for them, right? But
no, absolutely.
And to be honest, with stuff like that, in those moments, our deepest knowledge, our deepest individual truths, there aren't words to explain those kinds of things, right? That's the connection that you talk about a lot in a lot of your videos. Those are feelings or thoughts put into our mind that they don't come from me, right? It's
just know.
You just know. But that is, to me, that is the most important and the most significant truth that there is when you have that communication spirit to spirit, there are no words that can explain how that happens, right?
Right.
You just, and I don't understand it. I
Sure.
don't. And it sounds like you don't completely understand it, but it is true, right? For you, it is
It is for
100%
me.
true. And there's nothing that anybody can say otherwise. And you didn't learn that from the scriptures, right?
No.
There are so many things that God has for us to teach us that aren't words written on a page. And I say that like people are going to listen to this and think that I don't believe the Bible to be the word of God or scriptures. I 100% do. But that's not how I'm taught, right? I know that the Bible is true because I have felt it in my spirit, in that communication with my Father in heaven, right? And
Sure.
so that's what I'm kind of trying to get at is, as human beings, as children of a loving God, don't put them in a box, right?
I couldn't say that more than you have or I couldn't believe in that more because here I am reaching out to mediums, not going to church, not feeling that connection inside the walls of the church, but finding Jesus in a meditation, in energy healing, in all of these things that I'm like, he showed up. I didn't ask him to come. I wasn't looking for him. I was looking for my daughter. I mean, at first it was like, well, that's cool, but scoochie over. Where is Kenadie? Like, you know what I mean? It was like, I love you. You seem like a really sweet guy, but like, where is my girl? But I wasn't, when I was on that connection path, I was meant to connect with angels and guides and my son and Jesus before I found her. Because if I had found her on day one, done. I wouldn't have kept searching. I wouldn't have looked for more. But then here he was in this path. And I look back and before I even, years before Kenadie passed, or maybe a couple years before she passed, she had a dream where Jesus showed up. I didn't know for sure that it was Jesus, but I was pretty sure. And he showed up and she saw this storm coming. And she said she was really afraid. And then this man was there beside her. And he told her not to be afraid, that he would stay by her through all of it. And she said that he was surrounded by children and he invited her over and he was telling a story. And I said, did the storm go away? And she said, and I wanted her to say yes, that the storm went away. And she said, no, it was still coming, but I wasn't afraid anymore. And so then I was, okay, that's great. I don't want her to have another storm in her life. So the dream honestly scared me because I didn't want there to be a storm. And I wasn't super comforted because I wanted to be by her side and save her. I didn't want him to have to save her. And, but I'm driving down the road and I'm like, I just need to know that there's more to life than this. So I'm asking someone. I didn't know who I was talking to, what I was trying to learn. I just said, I need a sign. And I said, I'm living my life in a way that you're going to have to slap it across my face because I will not see it unless you make it very, very obvious. And as I'm saying this, I'm by myself in the car. I'm feeling so connected to something. And I just felt this spiritual, now I would say it was like a spiritual high, but at the time I was just like, I didn't know what I was feeling. And all of a sudden, this car pulls out right in front of me. I have to slam on my brakes. It was a scary encounter. I was doing 60 miles an hour. So to go from that to like nothing was intense. And I was furious. And so this beautiful feeling that I just had totally was gone. I was so angry that this person cut me off because they could have killed me. And so I'm following these people or this person and I'm mad at them and they come to a stoplight. And I noticed that they had one bumper sticker, like just a little one on the back of their car. And I thought, oh, what does this person have to say? I'm like so mad at them. I'm thinking that it's going to say something stupid. But I was curious. So I like rolled my car up close enough that I could read their one bumper sticker. And it said, Jesus is real. And I was like, oh, I asked for a sign to slap me across the face. Here it is. And that was after her dream. And I thought, oh, okay. So, I mean, there were little bits of him. And also when I was little, my mom, you know, we never talked about Jesus in our house ever. But my mom had this Footprints in the Sand poem.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember telling her in case somebody hasn't read it or heard of it, there's a man that's looking back at his life and he's looking at these footprints in the sand, and there's two sets of footprints, and he knows he was walking his path and the Lord was walking beside him. But during the toughest times, there was only one set of footprints. So he asks Jesus, I thought you were going to be walking with me. Why am I alone during my toughest trials in my life? And he says, oh, you misunderstood. That's when I was carrying you. And I loved that poem. I remember telling my mom that's my favorite poem. You know, I had books full of little kid fun poems and things, but that poem, that one was my favorite. And here, not that long ago, in a meditation, I always connect with my daughter now, and Jesus is always right beside her. Once he showed up, he hasn't left. So he's there every single day. And he's standing next to her, and I was talking with them, and I was referred to the time after she passed before I felt that connection with her. And I call those the dark days because it was very dark. And I said something about, like, I was talking with them and I wish that they had been there during the dark days. And he flashed, like, I got to see this flash of this beach, and there was one set of footprints in the sand. And I hadn't thought of that poem since I was a little girl. But I was like, oh, you were there. You carried me. And it's ironic because the day that she died, it was when the man from the funeral home came to get her, and he drove away with her in that van. And I just collapsed because something inside me died. It felt like it twisted and ripped out of me with the van. And it was like I couldn't stand any longer. My left foot actually went numb that day. And I had a foot drop. My husband had to help me upstairs. I couldn't go for long walks. I couldn't run any longer. My foot stopped working. And it didn't heal until I found the energy healing that had to do with the angels. The angels were a part of this type of energy healing, and I thought it sounded so hokey. But I felt called to try it, so I was like, okay, I'll try it. It was 30 minutes of a remote session. I was at home. The woman was far away, and she did this 30-minute session on me, and I felt something so powerful at the top of my head. It was the swirling energy. I thought, I don't know what's happening right now. And afterwards, she sent me a message. She didn't know what I had felt. And she said that she saw an angel at the top of my head. And he was clearing everything so that I could feel more connected with my daughter and with Source and with the angels and with God and just everything. And I thought, oh my gosh, I felt that. And then she was describing other things that happened during the session. And she said that there was some stuck energy, like in my back hip area, describing where I felt because I felt the pain where that twist had happened. That pain was in my back forever. I had MRIs, x-rays, physical therapy, and never got better. And the foot thing never got better. She said she felt this energy there that needed to be kind of loved on. And so the angels put their love right around that area. I thought, So I stood up and I kind of twisted my back around. I'm like, oh, no way. And I bent down and I touched my foot because my foot had been numb at this point for 2.5 years. And the numbness was gone. And it was a miracle. I was like, that is crazy. Like it blew my mind. And so then I looked at my husband, and he was really going through a dark time that summer. He was really struggling. And I said, do you want to try? And he was like, yeah, I'll try anything. So we did another session. We were at home, and the woman sent that energy to both of us. And he said that he's laying there. He'd never done anything like this before. He grew up in this small little farm town. He's like a hunter and a fisherman and a dirt biker. And like, okay, what am I supposed to do during an energy healing? So he just lay there and he said his mind was like, what am I supposed to be doing? Like, what? this is weird, but I'm open to it, whatever. And then he said just all of a sudden he was flying on like the wing of a hawk. He could see its feathers. He could feel the wind, but when he was looking at the earth, it was like he was looking at it through the eyes of the hawk. Like everything was really sharp and in focus. And he said it was just incredible. And he was flying over this river and he landed on top of the ridge, on top of a mountain. And it was just him at this point. The bird's gone. And he looked around like, what is happening? And right then Kenadie climbed up and she goes, there you are. And he looks at her and he says, you left me. And she said, no, Dad, you left me. And he understood in that moment exactly what she meant, that he had been so low, she just couldn't reach him. She'd been trying. That's why she climbed up, because she was like, oh, there you are. You're way up here now. She'd been down there trying to get to him, trying to let him feel her. And he just couldn't feel her because he was so surrounded by darkness and heaviness. And so she's hugging him and she's helping him understand that she's always there with him and that she'll never leave his side. And the session gets done and he stood up. We were laying down on our bed. He stood up and came to this window right here. And he's looking out and I hadn't seen his face yet. I said, did you feel anything? And he turned and he just had tears streaming down. He goes, oh yeah. He goes, I felt something. He said, will you please let Megan, the woman that was doing it, he goes, will you please let her know that she just changed my life? And I said, and then he goes, can you learn how to do this? Because he knew I was open to this sort of stuff. I was like, sure. So it kind of put me on a path to what we're doing now, what we're hoping to offer to people through 411 and stuff. So that was all a part of the journey too. But it was life altering.
Oh, for sure. I think that it's like so amazing that you guys really are so close to the veil and that you have been diligent about like seeking that other side, because as I'm listening, I'm like, man, like I want to be that close. And Brent has, I'm not going to go into this detail, but just Brent has been praying for certain things for my family and that, my grandparents can be in my parents' dreams and different things. And it's happened, I haven't had as many of those things, but it's because maybe I haven't been as diligent to ask for those things. And I just think that it's remarkable that you guys have had these many signs of her and that she's still there and she's communicating with you. And it's just such a beautiful, beautiful thing. But we have to look for those things and seek for them and
eyes to see and ears to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yeah, it's once for me, once I made the connection, once I kind of figured out that connection, and I really think that it was Jesus that allowed that, helped me feel it even stronger. Once I had that connection with him, I thought it was my spirit guide, but now looking back, I'm like, oh, that was definitely Jesus. But once I felt that, then it just felt easy. It seemed easy. There are still moments where I'm like, oh, I haven't taken the time to really tune in, because it's a choice. You have to choose that over and over and over again if you want to feel that connection, because life is busy. This is loud. They are quiet. So you have to, for me, I have to go within to listen to them, to hear them. And there's moments where they come through very loud, but on a day-to-day regular basis, they're pretty quiet. So I have to listen for them. I have to have ears to listen. So once I figured out how to do that, then I'm like, oh, this is easy. Like anybody can do this. This is like, I really think it's meant to be easy. If you choose it, it's easy. That's my belief. It takes us a little while to get over. For me, it took me a little while to get over I didn't believe it was already happening. I just didn't believe it. Like I was hearing the messages, but I'm like, oh, those are my own thoughts. I was dismissing all of it. Once they showed me how to feel it and accept it, and they came with proof because I need proof because I'm a skeptic. I'm the stubborn one. So it was like, bring me lots of proof, guys. Once they did that over and over again, then I could accept them in my life without constantly needing them to prove themselves to me. But I asked Jesus for proof a bunch, and he's a super cool guy because he kept showing up with it. But I was thinking like he would show me something and I would go, yeah, that's cool, but can I get something else? And I just think back, like, he must, he loves me, but he must have been like, this girl, this one, like, she is a lot to handle because I just kept asking for more and more. And then, I'll just go into it real quick, but I asked him for proof this one time. And I was drying Mila's hair, and I just got this really cool evidence from him. And I was like, that's not good enough. Like, thanks, but I want more. So I'm drying Mila's hair. And I said, can you just show me something from the Bible? Because I don't know it. I've never I've never read the Bible. I don't know anything from the Bible, but I bet he does. So I said, can you give me something from the Bible that I can just look up? And I saw Corinthians. In my head, I'm like, that sounds like a Bible-y word. I was like, I bet that's a word from the Bible. So I saw Corinthians, and then I saw 13, and then I saw 1. I believe it's the other. I think it's 1 Corinthians 13 in the Bible. But it got me there. And I went there, and this message was all about love. And it's the one that is read at weddings a lot of the time, because it's so focused on love. And I thought, of course, Jesus would guide me to the message in the Bible, that the verse or whatever that's about love. And then I looked into, like, what does this mean? Like, what does that passage really mean? And so I typed it into Google, and it popped up, and it was like talking about using your spiritual gifts for good in the right way and doing it for love, and serving others as Jesus did while he was here. And I just thought this was, we'd already launched 411. We were trying to figure out what we were supposed to do with it and what we were supposed to offer people. And that message came through, and I thought that was just for me, which I know it's not, but that's how it felt in that moment. And
in that moment. Yeah.
And he still pops through with proof sometimes for me, but I've never asked for it again after that day. I was like, okay, we're good. Like, I believe. That didn't exist anywhere in my memory, in my mind. I could not have made that up. He dropped it in just for me. So that was great.
Awesome. So to wrap things up here, if you could give a little bit of advice to somebody that might be in a position that you were, where they just can't get over the hump, or they're very skeptical. Maybe they've been taught their whole life that once we die, maybe there is a heaven, but the relationships aren't the same. What would you tell somebody that kind of has those walls up? How do we get those walls down?
I always say, if you're feeling guided to it in some, like, even 1%, if you are closed off to it, you won't feel the connection unless some miracle happens. Because I think of the connection as, because they opened up the top of my head there. So I picture this connection like right through here. Like, I just put my focus right here, and that gets me out of my human body, which puts me in heaven. That's what I believe. I think they're right here. They're that close. And so if someone is closed-minded, 100% closed-minded, how are they? They're not going to get there. Like, they can't shift up there. And I think that those people aren't meant to while they're here. Maybe that's not their path, and that's okay. So I am definitely not here to convince anybody to live this way or to believe how I believe. However, if you feel like your life could be better if you were connected, if you were more connected, but you're like, oh, I just don't know. I don't know what I believe in, or I don't know that I could believe in that, but I believe that if my life looked like that, it could feel better to me. Then I feel like you're open at least a little bit. So then I would just say, ask for proof. ask for the signs. I was driving down the road, I asked for the sign, and then you have to choose, does it feel right to you? Can you accept the sign? Can you say thank you for that sign? That was beautiful. Let's do that again. Cause they can they never got sick of me. I asked for lots of proof and they brought it through, but there's so many different ways that we can feel connected. For me, meditation was a big step for me because it helped me go in and quiet the outside noise enough to hear the whispers. And then I got so used to my own thoughts and to focusing on them that when something else came in, I was like, oh, that wasn't my thought. I got very familiar with both of those things. So I guess my advice is, if you feel the nudge to do it, then you're open to it on some level, and then just keep following that. If you want to try meditation, if you want to go to church, if you want to start praying more, go to a sound bath. I mean, whatever you're feeling guided to, follow those little inner whispers and then ask for proof along the way. That helps get past that skepticism. But there's lots of tips. Like, people ask me all the time, how did you get to this point? How did you feel so connected? And I would try to respond through Instagram, and I'm like, oh, there is not enough characters being allowed for this. And then I realized that really it's, there's a lot. And so I'm working on a guide right now to help people with that, because I feel like just to share what I did is a lot. And maybe 90% of what I did doesn't resonate with someone, but maybe 10% does. Maybe that's their next step. Maybe that's their breakthrough moment, is that one page that they read and they're like, oh, that's what I want to try, or that feels right in my heart. And I just listen to those whispers. That's your team. That's your loved ones across the veil, or that's God telling you, helping you, because if you're feeling like there's got to be more to life, if you're in that space, there is. So my advice is to find a way to feel connected to it. It's there for you. So I don't think we're supposed to suffer through life. And, I don't think that's my point. Even though I went through something horrific here, I wasn't meant to suffer for the rest of my days. And I'm glad that I realized that.
Awesome. Well, that could also count as your truth. But if you have one bit of truth, one more piece of truth that you would like to leave people with, what do you got?
My truth is, for anyone that wants to feel that connection that I've been talking about, you can. I wasn't born with some special gift or, I think that I'm the perfect example of someone that felt zero connection. I didn't feel the whispers here. I didn't hear anything when I was a kid. I didn't, because a lot of people that talk about being connected across the veil, they're like, oh, I felt like this since I was a child. My grandfather passed away and then I felt him visit me in a dream or whatever. I didn't feel that at all. And so I believe that every single person that's here is still connected while we're here in our bodies. I believe my truth is that that some of our soul is in our body, but I believe that another part, a higher part of our soul is always connected with God, with your loved ones across the veil, with the angels. And you can tap into that whenever you want to. And then you're just there. It's like, that's where the drop-ins for me happen. That's where the downloads happen. That's where that knowing, that more truths come in, is when I shift my focus to the part that's just outside my body. And that to me is going across the veil, and anyone can do it if they want to.
I agree. That was so beautiful. Mm-hmm. All of it. I loved all of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun. I always feel bad at the end. I've got to get past this because I'm always like, geez, I talk so much. I feel like I didn't ask you guys any questions, but I guess that's not the point.
No. Honestly, we did more talking this episode than a lot of them. So
no, seriously,
it was nice on my end.
it's really, you've put a lot of thoughts in my head and visions of what I personally want to work on. And I've just loved your story, and I know that it's going to touch so many people's lives. Yeah. So thank you so much. We so appreciate you. So
thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right, we'll let everybody go.
All right.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on Angels Among Us. You can find us on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow along for more stories of everyday miracles and reminders that angels are among us. If you have a story to share, please email or DM us with a brief summary. We'd love to hear from you. And remember, when we are waiting, God is working.